Hey, it's Sarah, and today we're going to be talking about some cookbooks. Now, I know it's been a little while since I posted a video over here. Things have been happening in my life, took a little break, had a baby, but I'm back to talk about cookbooks today, and I wanted to share with you the cookbooks that I have accumulated since the last time I made a video like that. So these are not all cookbooks that I bought all at once, not by any means. These have been slowly coming into my collection, but I feel like I've got a pretty good chunk of new ones now, and I want to chat with you about them, share them with you, give you my thoughts and insights in case you've been thinking about getting any of these cookbooks or are looking for some new cookbooks to add to your collection to get some new ideas for cooking and all that sort of thing. And I do have one really special cookbook that I'm going to save for the end because it's kind of different from all the others, but if you are really into cookbooks and you like reading them and looking at them, I think you're going to find that one pretty interesting. But let's get into it and talk about it because we've got a lot of books to get through. So first up, we have a couple cookbooks from the same author, Priya Krishna. This is the first one here, Indianish, and this was her first cookbook. And you might be familiar with Priya. She used to be with Bon Appetit. Now she's with the New York Times, and she appears in video stuff a lot. She does food journalism, recipe development, all kinds of stuff. She's really great. But this was her first cookbook that is an Indian American cookbook. So it has a lot of, what it's kind of based on is her experience and her family's recipes. It has a lot of her family's own recipes in there, which I think is really nice. It makes it really personal. And also there's a lot of, little tidbits, anecdotes, explanations around her parents learning to make their favorite foods and their cuisine in a different environment with different access to ingredients, and some of the different substitutions that get made or mashups that happen. So it's not like a very strict, like, this is Indian cuisine type of cookbook, but it does have a lot of really, really great recipes, and I think explains a lot of things, especially if you're new to cooking Indian food. There's a whole section that explains like a chart with different types of spices that might not be familiar to people who haven't made Indian food before, and has some explanations and substitutions and things like that. So it definitely is something that's great, I think, for a beginner cook or a beginner to cooking Indian food specifically, because it does have a lot of that kind of beginner-friendly explanation and knowledge inside of it. I've made a couple recipes from it. They've been great. And I think it's just kind of like a good staple kind of basics cookbook. I don't think there are things in here that are anything too elaborate or extravagant. It's there's a few entertaining recipes, but everything I think is very approachable for a beginner, which is really great. And then her second cookbook here, this is Priya's Kitchen Adventures, and it's a cookbook for kids. And this, I think, is just like so well done. She has talked about how she wanted to make a kid's cookbook that actually had recipes that someone would want to eat, like a grown-up would want to eat. Sometimes kids' cookbooks are more like food projects for kids to do, but it's not like the thing that your family is gonna have for dinner that night. And she really wanted the stuff to be really good, just real recipes, but written with a kid in mind. And so there's a lot of great information in here as far as like basic cooking skills, how to chop things. She has also talked about in interviews how she realized that with a lot of cookbooks, they're geared towards people who are already experienced cooks. And so they use a lot of terminology that a new cook might not understand or know, like all the information that is packed into one or two words or a simple phrase. So she really wanted to explain things out for someone who didn't know all that stuff. And honestly, I think that's why it makes it a great cookbook for anyone, because if you are not someone who has a ton of experience cooking, if you're getting into cooking, you also don't know all those terms. Or maybe even honestly, I think a lot of people cook a lot, they make food for their family, but they're not into cooking. They're not interested in learning all the little details. And if you're not, you might have been making recipes for years and not really know what some of the directions mean. And so when you try a new recipe, it makes it a lot harder to be successful if you don't know all those things. This cookbook really solves that. And one thing that's really fun about it too is it has an, I can't believe I haven't said this yet, it has a kind of around the world approach. So each section is a different country. And this is inspired by her experience growing up. As a kid, her mother worked with the airline industry. And so they would get free standby tickets. and it created this kind of childhood for her where a lot of times they would just show up and they didn't know where they were going, but they'd pack for like a certain type of like environment, like warm weather or cold weather, and try to find a place they could go. And so she had been to so many different places as a kid and had a really great memories as a child, you know, trying all these different foods in different countries. So it's great. It's not, you know, something that's watered down for kids. They're really, really delicious recipes that represent a broad array of different cultures and cuisines, and instructions are super clear. It's really a great book, and I've given it to a couple people because I think it's wonderful. Next up, we have a cookbook that I honestly have not seen anyone talk about, and it's like my new obsession. I recommend it to people all the time, and It's Always Freezer Season: How to Freeze Like a Chef with 100 Make-Ahead Recipes by Ashley Christensen and Caitlin Golan. It's so good. It's so good. So I initially got this when I was pregnant because I was looking to make freezer meals for us, things that we could eat after the baby was born, and we didn't have a lot of time or energy for cooking, but we still wanted to be eating tasty food. And I was trying to find stuff about freezer recipes. I could go on and on about freezer meals and freezer recipes and some of the problems. A lot of the stuff, the instructions aren't super clear, or they're just not the kind of food that I want to eat, if that makes sense. It's a lot of like, put all this stuff in a bag and put it in the freezer, and then you can throw it in your crock pot and it'll be food to eat. But it's not what I want to be doing. So fine for people who like that, not really my type of vibe. And when I found this book, I was like, okay, this seems promising. I checked it out from the library, which I highly recommend. Honestly, it's like a secret that I feel like a lot of people don't know, is that your library has cookbooks you can check out. And it's really great if you want to try something out, but you're not sure if you want to get it, or you just need to switch things up at home and you want some new recipes to try. Definitely check out your library. But that's what I did, and I was like, this is amazing. I have to get a copy. And I ended up actually ordering a used copy that is an ex-library copy, which I think is really fun because I like seeing like where this book came from before it got removed from its library home. Anyways, the book. It is, I think, a really great primer on how to make freezer meals, and it also has great recipes. And you're not always gonna find both of those, honestly. It has a great introduction section. As a dietitian, I can tell you like the food safety stuff is on point. That's something I see missing a lot of time, is really good food safety information about freezing food and what you need to be thinking about. And this has it all in there. It's accurate. It's explained very clearly. It's wonderful. Tips on how to package stuff in the freezer for success. Things that freeze well and things that don't freeze so well. And then the other thing I really like about it is it has information on like organization, like how to set up a system. Because before I got this book and before I was trying to make all these freezer meals, I didn't use my freezer a lot for prepared foods. Like, we use the freezer like if we got a bunch of meat at the grocery store and wanted to keep it in the freezer to have it on hand, frozen fruits and vegetables, things from the garden that we processed and maybe froze. But as far as like finished food, it was mostly just like, we made this soup, there was a little left over, let's throw it in the freezer and then pull it out 3 years from now because we forgot it was there and throw it away. And that's just kind of how it went. But this has great information also on keeping things organized, setting up a good inventory system. It has totally changed the way I cook. Like, I'm always thinking about now how I can make something for the freezer. If I'm already cooking, what else can I do? Or if I get a lot of something, if something looks really great at the farmer's market or the grocery store, how can I make that into something that can go in the freezer to make life easier for us on a future, night when we need dinner and maybe plans have gone kind of awry. The other thing that this really taught me that I didn't think about a ton was it's not always about making a complete recipe that can go in the freezer. Sometimes it's just about making a component of a recipe and having that on hand, and that makes it so much easier to make the full recipe when you go to do it. So this book has recipes for components that can then be used in multiple different recipes that it then outlines. So here's how to make this one thing that's gonna go in your freezer, and then here's 2 or 3 recipes that you can make with that thing when you pull it out of the freezer. Genius. Also, it does have some recipes that are like, make the whole thing fully complete, goes in the freezer. So it has both, which I think is great. Now, the one thing I will say is, just like any cookbook, is whether or not you like these recipes. Like, if it's your style, if you open it up and you're like, man, this looks like the kind of stuff that I like to cook or the kind of stuff I like to eat, great. For some people, it just might not be your style in terms of the types of recipes they have in here. that's fair too. So that's why I think, you know, check it out at your library, get a look at it. I reference this all the time now. Just it has a chart in the front about like how long different things last in the freezer, which is something I used to like endlessly be searching on my phone anytime I wanted to freeze something. Now I just open the book. It's right there. So this is like one of my most treasured cookbooks. And I recommend it to people all the time because it's really great about this specific topic. Next up, we have another little bundle of 2 cookbooks by the same author, and that author is Reem Kassis. So the first one is The Palestinian Table, and this is one that you may have seen before. It was one that I had seen so many people talk about how wonderful it was, and I've been wanting to get it for a while, and I finally got my hands on a copy. I'll just read on the quote here. There's an Anthony Bourdain quote that kind of explains it all. Thoughtful collection of great recipes, historical and cultural insights, and beautiful photographs. So I love any cookbook that goes really deep into a specific cuisine or like specific cooking technique or anything like that, where it's really getting into the nitty gritty. And this especially has a ton of historical and cultural notes to go along with the recipes. So I'll just flip through. You can see like there's recipes, there's beautiful photos, but there is a lot of text going on too. And that's because there's so much information embedded throughout this book. And I love that just as a general concept, but especially with Palestinian cuisine in particular, it's, I think, even more important to have this type of resource, or like almost like a historical document, you know, that has collected all of this information about this cuisine specifically. So kind of going on with that, I got her second cookbook, which is called The Arabesque Table. This is contemporary recipes from the Arab world. And this one also is full of historical and cultural notes to go along with the recipes. And I just love that. Anytime, you know, like I love to eat and make great food, but I also love when I'm doing that to learn about the food, learn about the history and the culture behind it. I think it's super valuable. So both of these are great. They're beautiful, very detailed, very rich cookbooks, and I would recommend them for sure. Next up, we have maybe the cookbook I've used the most out of all of these, and that is Snacking Cakes by Yossi Arefi. This is a cookbook that when it first came out, I actually heard about it, and I was like, I don't think that's for me. And then like, I don't know, my idea around it has totally changed, and now I would love to cook every recipe in this cookbook. I've never done that before, but this might be the first one that I actually try to do it. So it's simple treats for anytime cravings, and they're just all very simple cakes. Nothing too like rich, decadent, or elaborate or complicated. Just like very simple. You make them in, you know, a single layer, very easy in terms of like techniques and equipment. They all use like a single bowl. You don't need like special like mixers or anything like that. And they're all delicious. Everything I've made out of here has been great and super easy. So like the effort put in versus the reward you get out is just, it's amazing. It's really amazing. And the other thing about them is because they're snacking cakes, they're made to be something that like you could have as a dessert, but also as a snack or like as a breakfast or whatever. They're very flexible, and there are a ton of notes in here about how to adjust the recipes. So different variations you can make, how to cook the cakes in different size pans, like if you want to make it in a round pan or a square pan, or if you want to make a double batch and make a 9x13, or you want to make it in a bundt pan, or you want to make it in a loaf pan. There's all that information in there about like adjustments to cooking time or anything you might need to change about the ingredients, or doubling the ingredients, or halving the ingredients, anything like that. It's all in here. It's really great. So highly recommend, especially if you're looking to like do some baking, but you don't really have the time or maybe the desire to do something that's going to take, you know, all day or multiple days, or be very elaborate or require a lot of special equipment and like totally like destroy your kitchen with the mess you're making. This is like the antidote to that. It's lovely. I actually have her second book called Snacking Bakes, which is a similar concept, checked out from the library right now, so I can't speak to that, but I do have it to flip through, so I might be getting that too. I don't know, we'll see, but definitely recommend this one. Next up, we have a cookbook that is a collection of recipes. This is called Together, Our Community Cookbook. And this is a cookbook that was put together with the help of Meghan Markle. So I did not know anything about this. And then I watched the Netflix documentary that Meghan and Harry did about their experience with, you know, getting married and her coming into the royal family and the British press and all the awful things. Ugh, that's a whole other can of worms. We're talking about cookbooks right now, but watching that was how I found out about this, because they talked about this initiative and how it all came together as, you know, an experience that she had being a part of the royal family. So basically what happened is there was this fire in London, the Grenfell Tower fire. And after that, you know, people lost their homes, and the people in the community came together at this community kitchen to make food for everyone and feed people while, you know, this, in the aftermath of this, while all this was going on. And so she became involved with that effort and thought, you know, basically worked with the people there to create this community cookbook as a way to raise money. And it is so fun. You know, it's nothing huge, but I just love it because the community there living there when the fire happened is a diverse community. So the recipes are very diverse. A lot of different things from, you know, different backgrounds, and all in one cookbook. And when I looked at the recipes, I was like, oh, so many of these things sound so delicious. There's every type of meal, you know, desserts, sides, mains. There's Ethiopian food. There's, let's see, this one is an Indian recipe. This is Algerian. Let's see what this one. This is an Iraqi recipe. So you've got food from all kinds of different cultures around the world. Love, love, love this. If you like eating food from a lot of different types of cuisines, this is kind of just like a fun collection of a lot of different ones in one place, which I think is great. We now have the biggest cookbook in the bunch, and that is Start Here by Sola El-Waylly. Look at this thing. This is like a cooking textbook. The amount of work that went into this, I can't even fathom how she put it together. But it's instructions for becoming a better cook. It has so much information. And this is one, you know, because I'm a dietitian and like food is something I like personally, but it's also part of my job, I'm always interested in cookbooks from a personal standpoint, but also from a professional standpoint. And this is one I was really interested in to see, like, you know, something that's going to teach someone how to cook. That's something I have done a lot in my career, is teach people how to cook. So anytime there's a cookbook like that or a resource, I always want to see, you know, what it's like and see if maybe it's something that, you know, I might recommend to other people. So this is, I don't know, it's huge, but it has, the sections are broken up in a way that kind of like leads you through a particular concept or cooking technique or ingredient, and then there's several recipes in there, and the idea is like you kind of learn how to do it by making these different things. So it's broken up by culinary lessons. So taste, temperature management, let's see, steaming and poaching, cooking with dry heat, all about butter, whip and fold it good, which is about making fluffy desserts, caramelizing things. It's divided up by that, but then also, like, if you're like, okay, well that's fine, but I'm trying to find like a salad to go as a side with my dinner, it's also divided up in an index in the front by component. So salad, soup, eggs, vegetables, rice, pasta, and grains, and beans, seafoods, and meat, cookie, you know. So you can see, I mean, this is several pages long, but it has it broken up both ways, which I think is really nice. So just kind of depending on which way you're wanting to go with it, you can do it like that. Let's see if I can find one of these kind of instructional pages. Well, this is a good example. Lots of detailed pictures. This is a trend I've been seeing more in American cookbooks, and I think it's really great. Lots of detailed process pictures to really explain, so you can see how it's supposed to happen. If you're a beginner, especially, like, you know, this is why I think cooking videos are so popular and cooking TV shows, because there's nothing like seeing it come together. So having the detailed process photos, I think, is really key, especially for a beginner. And since this is a cookbook for beginners, I'm really glad that's included. That's actually a good feature of the Priya's kids cookbook as well. Lots of process photos. And so whenever I see that in a cookbook, I'm like, you're really dedicated to making this a good resource for people who are just learning how to do this. So this is great, especially if you're wanting to like really dig into the nitty-gritty on cooking and getting better at it. I think this is like such a good resource. And as promised, we're gonna finish up with like a little special book. This is like, when I found this, I was like, this is amazing. So this is Betty Crocker's Picture Cookbook. And I found this at a library book sale, and it was kind of in the section with like donated books. Like it was down on the bottom of the shelf. I just happened to squat down there and was kind of digging through, and I saw this peeking out, this red cover, and I was like, oh, what's that? This book, let's see. Let's look at the copyright info. Let me find it here in the front. This is an old cookbook, and it was someone's personal cookbook. And I love old cookbooks and old diet books. They're so interesting as like a historical document to see what were the things people were making, what were the types of recipes that were popular, what was the like nutrition advice that was given. Okay, so right here it says, oh, I don't want to tear it. It says the copyright is 1950. And this is the first edition, second printing. So it's not the first print, it's the second printing. And it's just like, I don't know, it's so charming looking through the recipes, and like there's also a lot of like hosting kind of information, and like look at these pictures, and it's so cool. There's a section here that's like recipes themed around cakes for your child's birthday, themed around their birth month, and like how you would decorate it to make it match their birth month. Here it is. It's just so cool. But the other thing that made this really special, I just couldn't believe it. Like, you can tell this is well loved. It's been used so much. You know, the edges are all frayed, and you know, inside, you know, you can tell that someone was using it. But it's also full of like little personal handwritten recipes and notes and cutouts from the newspaper. There's a stack here just in the front cover. And look, the whole cookbook is like this. Like if I just flipped through this or shook this upside down, so much stuff would fall out of here. It's like Mary Poppins handbag. Like how is it? But as I flip through, I find so many things. So let's just look at what was here on the front. This is a Cool Whip lid. And on the back is a couple recipes. So this person saved that. This is their handwritten recipe. It's for a fruit cake bars, DB fruit cake bars, and just, yeah, all the ingredients, how to make the glaze, red candied cherries on top, all the instructions, what size pan, handwritten right there. This is a cutout from a newspaper. Let's see if there's any info on here that we can glean. Custom cabinetry ad. Get rid of your backyard stumps for as little as $35. Call this number to get a quote. This is an October pumpkin column with it has a recipe for cream of pumpkin soup, French style, and pumpkin muffins. On the back here's some little sales that are happening, things. It's really, oh, here we go. This is from October 23rd is when this, oh, here we go. The ads are where you can get dates. This is sale price is good through October 29th, 1985. So there you go. That's when this newspaper clipping is from. What else is this? Grand National winners. This is also from like a magazine or something. Tomato cheese-a-roll dinner. Golden marble cake. Chocolate brownie pie. Take to meeting pecan cake. Luncheon chicken puffs. This, I think this kind of stuff is really cool. Oh, we've got a coupon. Free gold medal all-purpose flour when you buy Hershey's semi-sweet chocolate chips and some Pam. So we got that. Like I said, this is just what was in the front cover, and the whole cookbook is like this. Oh, look, here is someone's wedding announcement here on the corner of this clipping. The Johnson Bloomquist wedding. Oh, Minnesota. So maybe this person was from Minnesota. Blueberry jam made with Jell-O. Recipe from this newspaper here. Oh, also a spice cake, a molasses cake. Let's see what this one is. This is just a random sheet of paper. Cactus care. One of the most important things to remember about cacti is that they are very easy to kill by overwatering and hard to kill by underwatering. So I guess maybe this person had a cactus and they just had their cactus care here tucked in the front. Peanut blossoms. I think these are like those little, yeah, you put the Hershey's Kiss in the middle. And then another handwritten for peanut butter oatmeal drop cookies. Here on this little index card. And then we have nails, chipping, breaking, and splitting. Here's how to grow them long, strong, and lovely. Just put some gelatin in your juice. For 90 days. Clinical reports show 7 out of 10 women have had success with this method. So this is a tomato aspic chicken mousse Spanish cream made with Knox unflavored gelatin. So those 3 recipes. Tomato aspic, chicken mousse, Spanish cream, all in this little card. And if you need some more Knox booklets, you can mail in and order their Facts on Restoring Brittle Breaking Fingernails, their Eat and Reduce plan, their diabetic diet, their convalescent diet, Knox on-camera recipes, colorful 52-page gelatin cookbook, or the fabulous foods that are fun to fix recipe booklet. So it's like, this is like a whole like, I don't know, museum exhibit contained in the pages of these books. I found in here the instructions from like their apartment building that was like what to do if the fire alarms go off and how to evacuate. It's so fun. It's so fun. I don't know, maybe that we could just dig into this. I don't know what to do with all the clippings. Let me know if you have anything like this or found something like this. Like, what did you do? I kind of like how they're all in here because it just feels like where they're supposed to be. But also I kind of want to go through and like sort them all and I don't know, put them in like protected pages in a binder or something. I'm not sure what to do with it. So let me know what you think. How should I handle this? I just think it's so cool, and I think I got it for like $1. And I felt like I had, I don't know, found a secret hidden treasure. So I love it so much. I think it's so fun and so cool. And like, you know, this was, you can tell this was such an important piece of someone's life. They referenced it and used it all the time because of how much stuff is tucked in here. And I just think that's so special. And it makes me think about like, you know, the cookbooks that I have in my collection, and some of them are that kind of cookbook. You know, you use it all the time. Maybe it's something you pass down to someone else, or maybe it ends up at the library sale for $1 and some random other person finds it and gets to enjoy it. But I think it's so, so special, and I feel so privileged that I happen to just like squat down and look on that random shelf and find this in a stack of other books. Thanks for indulging me a little bit on that last cookbook. I just think that last cookbook is such a testament to how important recipes and food and cooking are to who we are. You know, I mean, really, maybe all the cookbooks, at least a majority of the cookbooks in this little group we talked about today, I feel like that's kind of a running theme throughout them. It's like food and cooking are a part of our culture and our histories and our memories, like in a really broad sense, but also in a really personal way. And I think that's really important and special. So thanks for coming along on this little cookbook journey with me today. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.